It's a strange thing when you revisit a moment that really might have been your death. And I love that my sister, she's been able to put it into writing in such a way that I think people really appreciate the dramatic event that occurred.
I'm going to read an essay that I wrote after my sister's experience. And the reason I wrote it is that I was having a hard time actually articulating and processing what had happened. So I decided to write an essay, and I'd like to read it for you. And it's called Blue Gel. The last time my sister and I were together at 5 a.m. was in 1969, when we had spent the summer traveling across country. We had danced all night long to the beat of 3 bongo-playing street musicians with a group of flower children in a Vancouver city park. 4 decades later, we were answering the call of our cell phone alarm clocks to arise for a trip to the hospital, where Frances would undergo a procedure she hoped would cure the runaway rhythms that threw her heart into deadly spasms. My sister lingered in the shower as I slipped on a pair of jeans and loaded a canvas bag with books and paperwork for the 6 hours I would spend in the cardiac waiting room. As I was putting away the linens from my makeshift bed on the floor, I noticed my sister cross the hall to her bedroom, a towel wrapped around her graceful, fit body. I thought about how brave she had been in the past months, since she got a call from a doctor who, after reading the EKG from her 24-hour monitor, told her to go to the emergency room immediately. He told her she had a serious condition and was at risk of sudden death. I thought about how ironic it was that Frances had always loved images of the heart. They adorned her house: candles, pink stones, a lamp with a red heart globe, and on her office wall a large photograph of her beautiful hand cradling a glowing pink candle. While my sister dressed, I fiddled around in the living room trying to tease my mind to clarity. Don't forget your cell phone. Be sure to bring the list of names to call after surgery. Check your wallet for cash. Then out of nowhere, I heard a loud pitch siren loop through the house, like a small ambulance had made a wrong turn and ended up in my sister's bedroom. I have no memory of racing to her doorway, where I stood frozen. But a snapshot is forever etched in my mind of Frances squinting like she was trying to remember something terribly important. She was wearing her defibrillator vest, a patchwork of white straps with cords attached to a canteen that held a virtual electronic emergency room. She sat down on her bed in kind of a swooning motion, dropped back on her mattress, and moaned. Her eyes closed, and the siren spiraled louder. Then a disembodied female voice rose up over the din. "Clear the area. Do not touch the patient. An electric shock is about to be delivered." The room went silent, and boom, Franny's body lurched into the air. "Call 911. The patient has been treated. Call 911, the automated voice commanded. Then Frances opened her eyes, as if she was arising from a midday nap. She sat up and started to finger the cords attached to the canteen at her hip. "Lee," she said, "I had an episode. I think I might have blacked out." I resisted the temptation to say, "You think?" "Franny, the vest just went off. You were shocked." "No, it didn't." For a moment, I doubted myself. It was inconceivable to me that she had no memory of what her body had just endured. "Yes, it did," I told her, and I began to shiver, suddenly aware of the danger she might still be in. I grabbed the landline receiver and dialed 911. My sister, cardiac arrest, shocked. I seemed incapable of producing a coherent sentence. "How is she now?" asked a slightly irritated dispatcher. "She's okay." Remarkably, it was true. Frances stood in the background, feeding me answers to each question the paramedic asked. "What address are you calling from?" 828 Moore Park in Studio City. "What hospital are you going to?" Cedars-Sinai. Once the dispatcher surmised that my sister was stable, he suggested I drive her to the hospital, and call 911 from the road if it turned out she needed an escort. I only agreed because I doubted the ambulance would take us all the way across the mountain to the hospital, where my sister's doctor and his cardiac team would soon be waiting for her in a fully prepped operating room. On the drive to the hospital, I was aware of nothing except for the serpentine road that zigzagged through Laurel Canyon, my resurrected sister, and Mr. Death, who hovered in the back seat. When we finally pulled in to the cavern of deserted medical buildings, the vest siren started to scream again. "Hurry, Lee, I'm getting dizzy," Franny pleaded. My own heart felt like a small racehorse charging out of the gate. Then magically I pulled under a concrete canopy with a huge white sign bearing the red letters that spelled emergency. I jumped out of the car spouting words I knew would get attention. Cardiac arrest, VTAC. In seconds, a huddle of angels in scrubs eased my sister into a wheelchair and whisked her through the electronic doors. And I stood by the car and watched as Franny's body leaned forward, just enough for me to see what looked like a dark blue ink blot on the orange shirt that she wore beneath the white straps of her vest. I remembered her telling me earlier, "Lee, if the vest ever goes off, a blue gel will be released when it performs its life-saving duty.